going to have a discussion regarding village signs. And I believe, let's see, Matt left. Okay.
I can help with this.
However,
Okay.
would you like to help?
Yeah, I'll come up
Peter?
here. Okay.
And then we'll call in about the talk as well.
So, Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. This is about the signs, and I think I'll introduce this, but I first want to thank Jake for all of his hard work, because he started working on this and got embroiled in different designs and didn't realize that the bid has a committee that I'm the chair of called the Capital Improvement Committee. And our task on the Capital Improvement Committee, all right? Okay, our task on the Capital Improvement Committee is to look at large-scale projects in the village, like the bid with sponsors such as wayfaring signs, parking signs, and so forth. So we were working on that, and we were working at the same time. Jake was working, thinking that he was accomplishing something for the board, and the general feeling from the bid, especially from the Capital Improvement Committee, is that as you're well aware, there was a grant that the village received for the North Avenue project some years ago, where new signs were made. They're the white with green rectangular ones that are.
That's coming back up.
Okay, well, you can add to this too in case I forget something. And they were put, that at the time was thought to be the theme the village is going to adopt for the signs. Now, that doesn't mean you can't put flowers in the poplar. There's a lot of things you can still do. But the idea was that since we already have those signs through the grant mechanism, and they're already sitting down on North Avenue, that would have been the sign that would have propagated throughout the village over the years. Again, not that you have to do this, but just keep in mind the sign's already there. And that motif is there as well when you come off the expressway and look at that, the gazebo there on the corner. That same exact style is there. So again, and boards can change over time, they certainly do, but I would just recommend to you that maybe that's something you should really look at in terms of keeping a design consistency through the village. We actually do have the parameters of those signs. For instance, we know the cost of them in general. We can scale them up, scale them down, put them in different ways, put them in pedestals, different mounts to them. So again, I think I don't mean to speak for Matt, but I think from our perspective, that common design element would be valuable to have that we've already established on North Avenue through that grant process.
Can you add the birdie? Because the guy really likes his birdie.
Maybe we could put a bird below it or something. How about a cage with a bird in it? But that was like a swingly answer. Sorry. I am. Okay, so, anyways, that's it really. There's nothing much more to it. I would say though that the good part about this is that in addition to the fact that Jake's almost had that design done, this one is done. So there's not much to do. It's just adopt it and then slowly install them depending on how the budget allows. So it's already there. Okay. I don't know if you want to add anything. I know you missed some of what I said.
I missed some of it.
But basically it was our discussion about keeping a common design element based on the science that we've already established through the grants. So.
Correct.
Okay. So that's pretty much it. Okay.
So how much was
Thank
the
you.
sign down on Orchard Street?
Yeah.
North Avenue?
Very expensive. Jake, do you remember that number?
So you gotta replicate at least 3 more of those.
Well, they don't have to be like that one. So it's, first of all, it's a great question. But second of all, it doesn't have to be exactly constructed like that sign. That sign was done through a state grant. They demanded certain parameters to the sign that we may not necessarily have to adopt for the signs that we would put in locally. So just so you know.
I was confused when you said the design has already been done.
Well, the design.
For that really expensive sign that now you're saying we don't need to do.
Well, there's
No. We could keep the design element the same. We changed the mounting.
So
No, I didn't say that actually.
the color scheme has been established. The font has been established. The size has been established. The materials have been established, but exactly how you orient them and how you mix them all together. And clearly, the actual cobblestone is relatively pricey, and there's a few people that Jake has been able to find that can do that. So, but the other elements of the sign should have a level of consistency with those 2 primary gateways. I think it would be foolish for us to have, yes, we spent federal pass-through money for these 2 tremendously beautiful gateway elements, and then we said, we're going to do our own thing everywhere else. We don't care about it. It would make no sense. You hire design professionals, professional landscape architects to come up with plans and a theme for those gateway areas, you should follow on that theme. Now, the exact implementation of following on that theme, I think there's probably a more
Yeah.
cost-effective way of doing it, but to just throw it out the window, just keep going with
No, I agree.
what
Yeah.
was done many, many years ago.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see one of the steps that the board could take is the board could decide, we have a specific color in mind for our signs. And there's a Pantone color identification for whatever that green panel is. The board could make a decision. Our future background color is X, that color. Our future font is this font. So even just using the simple color scheme and the fonts associated with those signs will bring that level of continuity. Expensive stone and masonry work is probably more of a targeted approach at very specific areas.
And it need not be cobblestone. We talked about it being shale or brick, or, so you can change the material in the base of the sign, so.
Yeah, but we were just noting for cobblestones.
Yeah, I mean, and the Matt's point is, Matt, Jake and I already talked, the thing is, the cobblestone is expensive. So the reality is, you could phase the signs in. We did that with the park signs. We think we took 5 years almost, 4 or 5 years, to put all the park signs in, because each one was its own expense. But having that 4-year, 5-year plan allowed us to replace every single sign.
Yeah.
And you could do the same thing here. I think it's just having a plan, if you could, to move forward and.
That's what we wanted.
So, and you could identify, and I think Jake's already done that, identified the ones that are most in need of replacement. Carl, you certainly have identified the one on West Main, right, as one of the biggest ones, so that could be, you could start there and move on, so it's doable.
Yeah, moving forward. I like it.
Go out to bid, looking at a cobblestone, see what
Yeah,
else we get.
because that's the other thing too, we don't really know, maybe Jake can work some magic and get a great cost.
The trade union to see if they can
Supply for stuff.
train on that, I don't know if they do that.
But I do think one thing we all agree on is it needs to be done fairly soon.
Yes.
So I think what we're looking for is, I think the bid's looking for that, our committee, our discussion was to make sure that we implemented this relatively quickly, if you can, so that we can begin the process of doing this, because, you guys have been talking about how bad the existing signs look. We really should probably do something, at least on that West Main one, to start.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I didn't hear a price. How about a ballpark
It was
price?
part of the project for the North Ave Connector project, and I don't believe it was an itemized thing. When I saw it, to have that one on North Avenue replicated 3 more times, I don't have the email, but the price it was giving me was about $126 grand to do 3 more. So
Each
that's
one, or do a
combined.
combined?
Yeah, for
About 40-something.
40-something grand a piece, yeah, for the signs, yeah. So I think there's opportunities to look and people are busy, they have enough work, that's, all right, I'll do it if I really have to, but it's gonna be worth my while kind of price, it's not, but it's a specialty. It's not something that a lot of people do, but maybe there's opportunities with training, with some of the, like I said, the trade unions, the masons, we can reach out to them and see, because it's a skill that it's not in high demand, but it's still in demand sometimes if they want to teach a certain portion of their work to be able to do, their workers to be able to do that. Maybe that's something that we could work and have that as a training opportunity. I think it'd be better to do 3 at once personally, because cobblestone, you can only go up so far every day. So by the time you get here set up and you go up this far and you gotta wait, if you have 2 other ones to work on, at least you can get a whole day out of it.
Isn't it possible the price will increase too if you wait?
Stones are pretty stable, I think. The supply is pretty consistent.
Yeah.
just don't do cobblestone. The other option would be just don't do cobblestone.
Or you do a slightly less complicated version of what was originally done.
Right. I think Jake's position here may be the best one, is to try to get a bid on a couple of possible plans.
Exactly.
Get them fairly quickly within the next, although you have a lot to do, but in the next month, and then come back to the board so you have something to work on.
Yeah,
and work with.
we do an alternate where you could do something similar to North Mount or Charles Sexton Park there, that's not that material, not that same layout, but the material, so it's a modular, something that you can put there if that's desirable by
Yeah,
the landscape folks. And
yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for granimals, I wouldn't figure out how to get dressed, so I'm not one to select colors and stuff. But if that's something that's worthwhile, or have a couple options, is that, hey, here's what we want, here's an alternate, and get prices that way too.
Is that something to be okay with you guys? Okay. Jake, can you do it?
I would have to just authorize, if the board, once we prepare the bid back and have the board review, and then authorize me to go out there, authorize us to go out to bid for the construction of these 3 signs. And I think when,
Have you ever asked, could you ask for their value engineered, like poured concrete, right, the foundation?
yeah.
What was done there is substantial, like a car could run into that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the car would lose in a
Yeah.
heartbeat, like.
No, we could put an airplane on.
Rather than go through the time and expense of putting together a formal bid package, can't you just go to various sign manufacturers, installers in Monroe County, just with an RFP and say, give me an estimate, give me some drawings and an
That's
estimate?
where his one cost came from.
Right, but that's where the one cost came from, but then if it exceeds 25, or if the public works contract more than $35,000, it has to be bid unless there's somebody that's on, I don't believe this is on the,
State bid.
I can't think of the name of it now, Tums, I can't think of the name, I mean, the roof.
Anyways, I think.
But it's almost like
But so I guess I'm still confused because I haven't heard this board actually see a drawing of 3
Yeah.
new proposed signs, and you already want to go out and bid on something they haven't even seen yet.
oh, it's like.
Unless you want to just do identical to what's down on Orchard Street and North Avenue?
I think that was.
That was our thought. Our thought.
That would be the ideal.
Right, the only exception being, again, we thought there'd be some flexibility on whether or not the cobblestone would be there, but the sign design would be the same. So what you just said is actually true, we do have the design to look at.
And the 3D model.
And, you're right, and 3D model.
Are there any walls, stone walls in the area that farmers have constructed from the cows that they get out of their farmland?
There's one in Sodas.
That could be scavenged, if you will, or they would donate?
I don't think it's the availability of the material, it's the availability of the skilled labor.
To put it.
Correct, that's it. Yeah.
I'll give it a try.
Oh, boy.
But I have a lot more base.
Well, Jake, is there a way to price out differently the sign versus the cobblestone? So for instance, could you get a quote on the size of the sign inside of a existing mount that we already have on all these places, and then separate that from the price of the cobblestone and see how that looks? Because the cobblestone ends up being 2/3 the price of the sign, maybe we decide the cobblestone isn't the way to go.
Yeah, I think we could formulate it any way we wanted.
Okay.
If our ideal is those signs, it might be worth, an RFP, but I think, the rules about it being over 35 grand and the budget numbers that we already had put it over that 35 grand. So, but hey, we do an RFP, maybe they'll come in under 35 grand because it's an RFP and they know they have to, their bid. And put it out there and see, hey, here's what the prices are. But to me, if that's the ideal, that's what we do. Hey, how much is this? Do it again. The person that built them, they built the one as part of that grant, did I think a great job. Is very skilled, and because he did a great job and he's very skilled, he's very busy. So I can't even get him to stop back anymore. So, but yeah, we can. I think we put it out there and put an RFP and say, hey, if comes in higher than the 35 grand a piece, or 35 grand total, because it is a single contract, then you could have to go out to bid, but maybe start with an RFP like Don said, and maybe they'll keep somebody that's contemplating going over 35 grand to keep it under. Well, what's gonna hurt, I mean, it's a few pieces of paper, it's not gonna hurt, it's worth a shot. So.
Okay. That sound?
Yeah,
If we don't ask, we don't know.
We ask.
sounds good.